Bangkok is an incredible city. You've got to check this out.
Here we go, full tourist mode as a family, showing you our top 10 must-do things, specifically for families with kids visiting Bangkok.
All right, so we'll start off. Number 10 is the Pask Khlong Flower Market. Now, normally we would definitely not go visit a flower market, but we heard that it was a cultural experience that you just have to try. So we tried it. Our girls especially loved this place, and in all honesty, just the sheer amount of flowers in one location was for sure a sight to see. There's a bunch of flower shops when you first get there that are out kind of on the main road, but to get to the real flower market, what you have to do is kind of weave your way in between the buildings, and then there's a big open area that you'll find, and you'll be really glad that you found it. Heads up though, families, this is only gonna take a couple of minutes to walk through because it's literally just flowers, but it is beautiful and it smells really great.
Okay, number 9 is Wat Pho. So the Wat Pho temple, or AKA the Temple of the Reclining Buddha, as you may have heard of it, makes our top 10 list. This giant reclining Buddha was seriously a sight to behold. It was absolutely massive. It had even bigger feet than mine. That was a lame joke, but that's a feat. But seriously, the feet on the end of this thing had to be 10 feet tall. Like, the scale of this is just hard to understand. The Buddha took up the entire building. So that said, honestly, every video we watched about this place focused completely on the Buddha itself, but really, the rest of the temple was one of the most beautiful displays of artwork and architecture that I have ever seen. Even our kids thought this temple stood above the rest, and they found a huge centipede. So that was enough to make the top 10 for them, because it's kids, you know? Kids just love the little experiences. So even just going to all these things just so your kids can hold on to that one thing is a great way to do it.
There you go, traveling with kids. Look for centipedes.
Yeah.
All right, coming in number 8 is Lumpini Park. Now, Lumpini Park is a public park in the middle of the city, and it really is just a breath of fresh air in the midst of the craziness of Bangkok. So this place was described to us before we came here as like the Thai version of Central Park in New York, and I would say that holds up. After, wading through crowds and crowds of people, sometimes you just need a wide path to walk on and space to let your kids run without worrying about what motorbike is gonna take them out next.
We've had some close calls.
Had some really, watch out for the motorbike. They're like ants, they're everywhere. But also do just be closely watching your children as you walk through Lumpini Park, because one of the best parts about the park, all through the grass, all along the waterways, there are wild monitor lizards wandering around. And in all honesty, when anyone asks what my favorite part of Bangkok was, my answer is always the monitor lizards. They're so cool. They're absolutely massive. They're bigger than this. They're so massive and they're super cool to watch. It feels like you're watching animals in Jurassic Park. But my kids never got that reference the whole time we were there. Regardless, you are sure to see plenty of those monitor lizards at Lumpini Park just walking around in the wild. And there's also a really cool playground. So if your kids need space to just run and play for a little bit and go wild, it's a good place to go.
Number 7 is the Grand Palace. You cannot come to Bangkok without seeing the Grand Palace. It's the Grand Palace. I will say though, the entrance to this was very confusing for us, partially just because there was a lot of construction going on, but more than that, it's because all of the tuk-tuk drivers are liars.
Yes, liars.
Okay, that sounds harsh, but it's true. Like, every single one of them will tell you it's closed, or you're in the wrong place, or you need a ticket from somewhere else, and conveniently, they would be more than happy to drive you to that somewhere else. We have more info about this in our tips for traveling to Thailand with a family, the other kind of sister video of this, so watch that when you're done with this one. But know that if a tuk-tuk driver tells you something, it's wrong. So here's what you need to know. When you visit here, you'll walk through the Wat Pho queue, and you gotta be very careful how you say that, Wat Pho queue. And you'll see the Emerald Buddha. So the Emerald Buddha is this really cool thing. They won't let you take any photo or video of it, but it's this really cool piece of art, and it has this incredible history of being in Chiang Rai in the north and then Chiang Mai and being moved because of war. It's also a beautiful temple with amazing gold tile work and breathtaking spires and pagodas all around it. Then after you walk through the temple, you'll come out in front of the palace, and it's definitely one of the most Thai buildings you will ever see in your life. You really cannot miss it when you're in Bangkok. Also, if you know us, you know we love coffee. And there is a delicious coffee shop right outside of the palace right before you leave the grounds, so make sure you stop there and get a coffee.
Yeah, they have ice cream too. The kids likes that. Yeah. So if you're looking for ice cream for your kids, it's a good place to go. All right, number 6 is taking a boat tour. Now, I'll be honest with you, this one we actually did on accident. Remember those liar tuk-tuk drivers we talked about? Well, hypothetically, they might have friends who walk along near them wearing shirts that say security on them, and they look really official.
In English.
I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, they said it in English, not in, dang it. They'll take you, they'll give you a map of the city that has their name conveniently written at the top of it. They'll lead you to a tuk-tuk driver who's one of the safe ones and will take good care of you. We definitely got taken by this guy. Honestly though, I would say it worked out pretty well and ended up being one of the coolest things that we did in Bangkok. So what you have to do is you go to the Ratchathawardit Pier. I'm butchering that, I guarantee you. It's called the Rat. It's near the Grand Palace, it's a big pier, you can't miss it. You'll find a bunch of different tour guide companies that will take you and your family on one of these long boats. So what they do, you get in the boat takes you across the river over to Wat Arun, where we were able to get off the boat and walk up and around the temple. It is a beautiful temple. When you do book your tickets on the boat though, make sure you bargain with them to give you at least 30 or 40 minutes there at Wat Arun instead of the 20 minutes that they're gonna offer you at the beginning. And you'll be really thankful you did and you had the extra time to climb around. There are some really cool, super steep steps that go up the side of the temple, and it's one of the oldest temples in the area. It's a cool place to walk around. After that, the boat then took us up the river and on a cruise through the canals where we saw a bunch of other temples just from the boat, and we were able to see how a lot of the locals in Bangkok live every day as we rode past their homes on the canals. Our kids really liked that part. The boat finally dropped us off right back by the Grand Palace in that same place. That was definitely not something that we planned on doing, but I'm really glad we did. Obviously, it made the top 10. So if you have any specific questions about this excursion or any of the others that we do, drop us a comment below. We love reading comments and writing back to you, and we're happy to help however we can. Also, just subscribe to this channel and you can see more videos just like this.
Yep. All right, number 5 is the Ayutthaya Temple Ruin. Ayutthaya, it's hard to say. Ayutthaya Temple Ruin. So I loved the trip to Ayutthaya. Ayutthaya was the original capital of Siam, and it's really the historical center of Thailand. It's packed full of ancient temples and has a really awesome vibe just as a town in general. So Ayutthaya is a full day trip outside of Bangkok, and it's about an hour-and-a-half drive to get there. So while we were there, we saw big temples, and you see the big Buddha head that's stuck in the tree if you've seen pictures of that, and all those things. But the hard part is there are so many things to see, and they're all spread apart. So we really just could not find them alone. We definitely suggest that you hire a driver for the day who knows the area. Now there are a bunch of TripAdvisor tours and things, but they're really costly and they're not very flexible. You just kind of get on their tour and go. So we ended up meeting a driver with a huge van named Vishan, and he just kind of stuck with us for 3 days of our trip and ended up becoming an honorary member of our family. We loved hanging out with him. So not only would I suggest you find somebody like Vishan, his contact information is in the description below, so you can just call him. Like he told me, just, yeah, give my number out to people. I would love to give them the same experience as you. So otherwise, you can use the Grab app, which is kind of like Uber, and you can hire a van. And if you like the driver, ask what their day rate is, because most drivers will be more than happy to be booked up for the whole day. And it means your kid can leave their stuff in the car and you have something stable to go back to. So the ruins in Ayutthaya are truly a sight to behold, and it absolutely cannot be skipped. It's really like stepping back in time. And unlike a lot of other countries we've been to where you visit, they don't keep you 20 feet from everything we're seeing. They allow you to walk right through the ruins and really experience what life was like when the temples were occupied. Ayutthaya is also where Thai monks make their pilgrimage to, and we were fortunate enough to get to meet 2 young monks from Myanmar and talk with them just about their spiritual beliefs. And we got to hear all about how they were in university working towards enlightenment and learning the Buddhist ways, and they were so excited about being in Ayutthaya. And then we got to share with them that we're Christians, and we believe that we're all broken people who are in need of Jesus. And it was this really cool cultural experience of just us loving hearing them and them hearing us, and it was this cool thing for our kids too to experience.
All right, the number 4 thing that we have on our list is not really a specific place, but more a lifestyle choice. Especially as Americans, the exchange rate here is pretty nice coming to Thailand, which really just affords you the ability to kind of live it up in a way that we as a family don't ever do. We stayed in some super cool hotels and Airbnbs that had rooftop pools and multiple bedrooms and living room spaces and luxury entrances.
Kind of like the one we're in right now.
Yeah, like this one, all for insanely cheap. Restaurants are very inexpensive too. And most tourist attractions are free for kids. So just do your research. Find some cool places to go and stay. There's a family group on Facebook that's pretty much for every city in Thailand with current events and deals for kids and families. But here is what really got us excited about living kind of more luxurious. Not only were we able to live it up a little bit, but we were also able to bless people like crazy along the way. So even though tipping is not really a thing in this culture, we were able to give extra to people who were serving us and pay extra for things instead of bartering at some of the markets, just to be a support to the locals who are working hard trying to make a living here. Honestly, even as a lower middle class family in America, you know, we live a lifestyle of giving in the US, but coming to a city like Bangkok, we were able to give on a whole different level because God has so richly blessed us. So have fun as a family, live it up, do some fun things, get excited also though about being able to bless some locals as you go. Okay, but this is where it really gets good, okay? So stick with us, we're down to the final 3.
Okay, number 3, I love this one, is the Lao Tuk Lak floating market. The floating markets are just kind of a Thai thing, and they're really all over the place. But this one in particular is about 100 kilometers southwest of Bangkok in the Ratchaburi province. Now there are multiple others that are closer to Bangkok and equally as good from what I'm told, but we wanted to get out of town a bit, and this one lines up with our number 2 pick, which you're gonna have to stick around to see. So after an hour and a half drive, you'll come up to this tiny little dirt parking lot where you get put in a tiny little boat with a tiny little Thai guy who's driving you that can't understand you. And then you start driving up to these little shops on the banks of the canal to buy souvenirs and food and that kind of thing. You can get some amazing Thai food like pad Thai and other Thai dishes from people cooking in their boats alongside of you. You can get fruit and souvenirs and all these different things. So we've spent 2 months in Thailand now seeking far and wide for the best pad Thai in the country because I love pad Thai. And by far the best that we've had was made by a lady in a 4-foot boat on this canal.
For sure.
Which is
amazing.
Shocking. So they'll come in quick, it can be a little bit overwhelming, but our experience was that they're not super pushy, so it's really a great afternoon. So even so, prep your kids ahead of time for all the souvenir things that people are gonna try to hand them, because Thai people absolutely love kids, which is another thing we talked about in our other video, and they'll just give them things. I also got to hold a slow loris for about $10 American, which is the cutest animal on earth, and it absolutely made my trip, even though she makes fun of me for it.
He was in heaven. It was a little embarrassing.
I don't care. Pro tip though, don't buy anything at the first couple rows of stalls, because those stalls were way more expensive and it was all just touristy crap, to be honest. Your boat will stop at a big market where you can get off the boat and use the bathroom and look at some of the souvenir stuff, get out some cash if you need to or whatever. And then after that, you hit all the really good floating market stuff with all the food and everything. So do not miss the floating market.
Okay, number 2 is the Maeklong Train Market. This is one of my personal favorite places, the Maeklong Train Market, okay? If you opt to do the floating market that Yale just talked about, then this train market is conveniently just down the road. You can do them in the same day. There are a few other places that are called train markets on the map closer into town in Bangkok, but just so you know, those are not the same. They're just train cars that are turned into markets.
Which are really cool, but not like this.
Right. This is different, trust us. This one is way worth the drive because it's a market where an actual train literally drives down the middle of the market, inches away from you and from the stalls, over the food. Like, all the stalls raise and lower their awnings as the train passes by. Just hold tight to your littlest kiddos as the train goes by, but you're gonna love this very unique experience. The drawback is it's hot. I mean, it's Bangkok, it's Thailand, right? So we suggest that you get there a little bit early, walk down the track until you find an indoor cafe or coffee shop that you can wait for the train at. Also, just so you know, this is not a souvenir shopping market. It's just food. But you will see some really cool smelly fish and lobsters and large crabs and things like that being sold for food. Our kids absolutely loved seeing all the live animals that were there for sale.
Okay, number 1, this one we absolutely loved is the King Power Mahanakhon building, or as it's more aptly called, the Pixel. So the King Power Mahanakhon building was the coolest thing we did. Now this was one of my bucket list things because I have a tattoo of the building. So really my family kind of just went to humor me, but it ended up being absolutely awe-inspiring for every single one of us. We even took our driver Wishan with us, another quick plug, call him. And he had a blast too, and it was fun just getting to hang out with him. So at only $15 per person to take the elevator to the top, this is a just incredible, life-altering thing, honestly. So you start off in this beautiful lobby and they lead you to this crazy tech show of videos of Bangkok in the elevator, and you step out into this observation floor with panoramic views of the city. And then you take this just absolutely sick glass elevator all the way up to the top, and you come out into this open air rooftop, and it's one of the most unbelievable views you will ever see in your life, 360 all the way around. Now at the top, you're able to step out onto this glass floor overhang where you can look straight down at a drop over 1,000 feet. I loved it, it was so cool. Autumn was a bit nervous. And our kids ran out onto it with a reckless abandon that made our hearts stop. And we knew they were safe, but it was like they just ran for it. It was freaky. But we also went up right before sunset. And we sipped on a Coke and just relaxed on these comfy chairs to watch the sun go down. So this is also where you can take some incredible family photos. The thumbnail of this video is from the top of that roof. It is just a once-in-a-lifetime experience to see this massive sprawling city going out all around this building. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, it really was. Well, there you go. That's our top 10. But it really was so hard to narrow down. We didn't even mention all of the amazing street food or the night markets or the insane amount of delicious cold drinks.
Yeah, Thailand has just like the key to cold drink. Unbelievable.
The
so
coffees
good.
and teas and fruit smoothies. Oh, the fruit smoothies.
Yeah.
The fruit smoothies.
So I want to add one more thing though. If we were doing this top 10 things in Bangkok without a family, there might also be a few other things on this list. We drove to Khao San Road, which is kind of a staple thing. Honestly, we just weren't impressed, and it's not our scene, but it might be yours. You might love that. There are also some really great malls in Bangkok worth visiting, but they didn't make our top 10 because the kids were just kind of bored and a little overwhelmed. I'm also sure that if you don't have kids or kids weren't a part of this, we would mention massages and fancy restaurants and some of the finer things in Bangkok. But doing everything as a family was our primary focus on this trip. So our family spent 3 full days in Bangkok, getting all this video for you and running around to see everything. And we ran non-stop and honestly just wore our kids out. So it's possible in 3 days. But we would definitely recommend taking a week here, at least like 5 to 6 days, to really see everything you want to see, if you want to see it all with kids.
Yeah. So there you go. Hopefully you enjoyed our video. Like we said before, like and subscribe to the video if you want some more content like this. But also, if you are traveling to Thailand with kids, we made a sister video that goes along with this video that is just tips on traveling to Thailand with kids. Things for the travel time, things for being here, just things you need to know if you're bringing kids to a country like this.
Yep.
So check that out, and we will see you on the next video.
Okay. Hey, Autumn, come here.
What's up?
I think I found the exact moment that you broke your foot in Bangkok.
Wait,
It was day 1. Come here.
in Bangkok?
In Bangkok. So, Autumn broke her foot. We didn't know it was broken until we got back in the States after 2 months in Thailand. But she broke her foot on day 1. Right here.
Oh my gosh.
Right there.
That's just.
It was that big step at Waterroon. See, right? Boom. Look at that drop.
And holding kids. Yeah, that's it.
You made it 2 months with a broken foot and didn't know it. You're a beast. Thanks for watching. You guys are awesome. We'll see you in the next one.